I got the calendar ping at 9:13 a.m. on a random Tuesday. Not 9 o'clock, not 9:15, 9:13. Like they wanted it to feel accidental. Subject line read, Operational Realignment Briefing. No real agenda, just Kenny from HR inviting me to conference room C. My stomach dropped. 14 years at that place, and I knew exactly what that kind of wording meant. Corporate speak, for we're about to ruin your life. Name's Rick. I'm 42. I live in Henderson, Nevada, just outside Vegas. I've worked in enterprise systems at Wessler Group since 2009. Stayed through 3 CEOs, 2 buyouts, a full system migration nobody else wanted to touch, and 1 parking lot repaving that took 4 months and made me walk in through the mud every morning. Quick note, before we go further, share which city or country you're watching from. Anyway, I'd seen plenty of people walked out of that building. Hell, I'd helped clean up the systems mess after the last round of layoffs, but I never thought they'd aim it at me. I walked into conference room C, and there they were. Kenny already sitting with a folder in front of him, like it was an interview. He gave me that HR smile, tight, rehearsed, empty. Scott was next to him. My boss? The same guy I covered for during 2 audit cycles when he didn't know the difference between an accrual and a liability. He wouldn't even look me in the eye. Thanks for coming in, Rick, Kenny said. We wanted to update you on a recent operational realignment effort. I didn't even sit down. I just stood there while they launched into the speech like it was pulled off a laminated card. Your position has been restructured. This decision is not performance-related. We appreciate your contributions. You'll be receiving a transition packet. Then he slid the beige folder toward me like it was a gift. Scott still hadn't said a word. Not even a sorry man. I'd been to his kid's baseball game, helped him fix a formula error that almost tanked a quarter-end report. Kenny stood up and said he'd walk me out, just to make the transition smooth. I stared at the folder, then looked at both of them. You serious? I asked. That's it? Scott finally muttered something like, It's above me. I laughed, short, bitter. You're damn right it is. Then I tucked the folder under my arm and walked straight out. I walked back to my desk like I was in a daze. Just started grabbing stuff. The cracked white mug from the 2013 offsite, the one where our GM got hammered and tried to do karaoke. A stress ball shaped like a raccoon that the intern gave me as a joke. And that photo from our cabin trip in Big Bear, me, Beth, the kids, and Boomer, all wrapped up in jackets with hot chocolate in our hands. I went to grab my bonsai tree, the one I watered every Thursday for 5 years. And Kenny stepped in like I was swiping company gold. That stays, he said. Company asset. I looked him dead in the face, yanked the thing off the desk and said, Then tell them to send me an invoice. Didn't wait for a response, just kept walking. On the way out, I passed the break room I personally rewired after facilities botched the smart fridge install, past the big screen dashboards I set up after hours so the execs could track ops in real time. Walked by the team huddled in the open workspace I designed with our old facilities lead before they laid her off too. No one looked at me, not one damn person. I got to the elevator, hit the button, and Kenny just stood beside me pretending not to exist. I didn't say goodbye, didn't nod, just stared straight ahead until the doors opened, then walked out like I hadn't left blood on that floor for 14 years. Drove home in silence. Didn't even turn on the radio. Parked in the driveway, walked in the front door, and dropped the cardboard box right in the entryway. Then I sat down on the floor next to Boomer, our old yellow lab, and let out a breath I didn't even know I was holding. He rested his head on my leg like he knew something was wrong. No bark, no tail wag, just stayed there. I opened the beige folder. 2-week severance. A benefits summary that expired at the end of the month. A brochure titled Navigating Transitions. And a hotline number for mental health services printed in Comic Sans, like they were doing me a favor. It wasn't just insulting, it was humiliating. 14 years, and they sent me home with a flyer and 2 paychecks. Like I was nothing. Beth was at work, kids at school. I sat there until the sun started fading through the window, just staring at nothing. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My brain wouldn't shut off. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and turned on my old work laptop. Logged into my personal backup drive, started going through archived files, old onboarding documents, email PDFs. Nah, I don't know what I was looking for. Some proof that I'd mattered, I guess. That I didn't just imagine the years of work I'd poured into that place. After about an hour, I found a folder I hadn't opened since 2009. It was named Wessler Onboarding. Inside were 4 documents. One of them was my original offer letter. I clicked it open. And there it was, halfway down the page, bolded like it was meant to be seen. All unvested equity shall fully vest upon termination by the company without cause. I stared at the sentence like it was glowing, read it again, then a third time. Unvested equity, fully vest, termination without cause. They said those exact words in that conference room. Kenny practically read it off a cue card. This is not performance related. You're being let go without cause. My heart started pounding. They didn't mention a single word about stock. Nothing in the packet, nothing in the meeting. I sat back in my chair, still in yesterday's clothes, and started opening spreadsheets. The old ones I used to track my options back when we still got quarterly updates. They'd buried the program after the second merger, said new grants would be performance-based moving forward, but those early year grants, still mine. And if I was reading this right, they weren't crumbs. They were a whole damn pie. I opened every spreadsheet I'd ever kept from the early years. Some were still in .xls format. Ancient, clunky, but clean. There it was. Stock option records from 2010 through 2015. Grant dates, vesting schedules, strike prices. I'd tracked them like a hawk back then, until the company stopped sending statements and started restructuring incentives. They thought time and turnover would make everyone forget. And they were right, for most people. But I had it all. The shares were tied to legacy equity plans, pre-merger, pre-reorg, and completely off the radar of the current exec team. I ran a few quick numbers in the calculator app, and my jaw actually tightened. Those shares weren't just leftovers. They were worth 7 figures. Real money, not on paper, not potential, right now. I took screenshots of everything, converted copies to PDF, uploaded backups to 3 cloud drives, my personal email, a flash drive, and even printed out 2 full paper sets. If they were going to come for me, I'd be armed. Once I had the ammo, I needed someone to help pull the trigger. Started Googling corporate attorneys in the Vegas area. Skipped all the polished law firms with Skyline websites and our partners' pages. I didn't want a team of suits. I wanted a bloodhound. Found her on page 2 of the results. Marla Chen, Business and Employment Law. Office address, a strip mall behind a Panda Express. Her Google reviews were brutal in the best way. Clients called her a scalpel with a grudge. One guy said she got him triple what he expected and then sent him a bottle of bourbon. I called the number listed around 8:45 a.m. She picked up herself. This is Marla. I gave her the 2-minute rundown. Longtime employee, laid off without cause, found a clause in my original offer that said unvested equity should fully vest. I told her I had records, dates, backup files. She didn't ask for a long explanation, just one question. Do you want a payout or revenge? I paused, thought about it, then said, both. She laughed. Not mean, just sharp. Now we're talking. I sent her the offer letter first, then the spreadsheets. 15 minutes later, she called me back. This clause is gold, she said, and if what you're telling me is true, they're already screwed. I asked how fast we could move. Give me a day, she said. I want to prep something that makes their legal team sweat before they even open it. She didn't ask me to come into the office, didn't ask for a retainer up front, just told me to sit tight. That night, I grilled steaks on the back patio and watched Boomer chase a tennis ball like we weren't sitting on a ticking bomb. Because now I knew something they didn't. They thought they'd thrown me out. But what they actually did was trigger the one clause they forgot still existed. Marla called the next morning and said, meet me at the office. Bring the originals. The place looked exactly like you'd expect. One door between a dry cleaner and a vape shop, peeling letters on the glass, and a handwritten sign that said, ring bell hard. Inside was a metal desk, 2 chairs, and more file boxes than furniture. Marla was in jeans and a hoodie, hair up, eyes locked on her screen. She didn't waste time. Scanned the documents, flipped through my spreadsheets, and nodded slowly. Over the next 2 hours, she built a legal grenade. Every sentence had teeth. Attached the termination statement from Kenny, where he'd said, "Not performance related." Listed every grant I was issued, every vesting date, every policy change they'd tried to hide behind. "You're not just owed the equity," she said. "We're going to make them admit they tried to bury it. That's leverage." The letter was sharp, cold, surgical. At the bottom, she added a single line, "Please respond within 3 business days to avoid escalation." Then she sent it. 9 a.m. sharp, Thursday morning. "Why the timing?" I asked. She smirked. "Legal teams panic best in the mornings. They've got meetings lined up, inboxes full, and suddenly this lands in the middle of their coffee." I walked out of there lighter than I'd felt in a week. That afternoon, silence. Friday, nothing. Saturday, still quiet, but I noticed one weird thing. My old employee portal login had been disabled. Then Sunday afternoon, I got a text from Marcus, one of the only guys I still trusted from the old office. "Dude, legal is in full meltdown." That was it. No follow-up. He didn't need to say more. I sat back in my chair and smiled. Because for the first time since they fired me, I wasn't the one sweating. They were. Marla texted me an hour later. No response yet. "Give it until Tuesday. If they stay quiet, we file formal notice and loop in their board." I replied, "Let's turn up the heat." She just sent back one word, "Good." Boomer barked from the kitchen like he agreed. Monday morning, my phone lit up at 7:52, a.m. Scott. I let it ring, thought about ignoring it. Then figured, if he was calling me this early, someone upstairs had lit a fire under his ass. I answered, didn't say a word. His voice came through tight and panicked. "What the hell did you do?" I leaned back in my chair, put the call on speaker, and let Boomer finish crunching his breakfast before I replied. "What I did," I said, "was read the contract your team didn't bother to." He let out a short breath, like he'd been holding it since Thursday. "That letter blew up Rick. You have any idea what you triggered?" I didn't respond. Let him keep talking. "Legal's in full scramble mode. Someone pulled your name from the equity pool too late. Your grants were still marked active in the system. You know what that means?" I already knew. I just wanted to hear him say it. "It means your shares still counted against our outstanding float. 11% of the last grant cycle, back when they were handing out oversized grants to lock down tech leads after the merger. There it was. Now finance has to include it in the Q3 disclosures. CEOs furious. Boards asking questions. This isn't just money, it's a reporting issue now." I smiled to myself. "Then maybe you should have read the paperwork before showing me the door." He paused. I could hear him pacing. "Rick, come on. You can't actually go through with this." "I'm not doing anything illegal," I said. "I'm collecting what your people forgot to steal." Silence. Then he mumbled something about needing to talk with legal again and hung up. 5 minutes later, Marla called. "They blinked," she said. I raised my eyebrows. Define blinked. "A meeting request just hit my inbox from their general counsel's office. Subject line, review of terms, equity vesting." I laughed. "So now they want to talk." "They're trying to feel you out," she said. "Gauge how loud you're willing to be." "Which is perfect." I asked if we were going in guns blazing. "No," she said. "We walk in calm. You let me lead. Let them sweat. The more polite we are, the more nervous they get." I told her I was ready whenever. She said Friday at 10. "They think they're offering you an exit. What they don't realize yet," she paused, "is that you're the one holding the door." Friday morning, I parked in the visitor lot and walked through the front doors like I owned the place. No badge, no escort, just me in a clean button-down, holding a leather folder and walking straight into the fire. The receptionist looked up, froze, then pretended she didn't recognize me. Fine by me. Marla was already upstairs. I took the elevator alone. Floor 6, executive wing. Last time I was up here, I was giving a Q2 systems update. Now, I was the update. Conference room A, bigger than the one they fired me in. Glass walls, long polished table, water bottles lined up like trophies. Inside, CEO Dan, sitting dead center. Scott off to his right, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Kenny, tight-lipped in a blue suit that didn't fit right. Next to them were 2 HR managers I didn't know, both fidgeting with pens. And at the far end, their general counsel, a woman named Blair with gray hair, rimless glasses, and a stack of printed emails in front of her. I walked in, nodded once, and sat next to Marla, who didn't even bother to stand. No one said a word. Marla opened her laptop, clicked once, and spun it toward them. "I'm going to read this out loud," she said, "so we're all on the same page." She scrolled down and began. Section 5, C. All unvested equity shall fully vest upon termination by the company without cause. She looked up. "Those are your words," in a signed offer letter. Backed by documented equity grants that were still active at the time of termination, nobody spoke. Then she added, slow and calm, "This isn't a negotiation. This is a mistake you're correcting." Dan leaned back in his chair, said nothing, just looked at Blair. She shuffled through some pages, whispered something to him, and then he nodded. Blair finally said, "We're prepared to offer the full current value of the shares, plus a 10% bonus for closure." Marla didn't even blink. "Not close," she said. Scott shifted in his seat. "Look, Rick, you got a raw deal, I admit that. But we're trying to make it right here." I cut him off. "I'm not signing an NDA, and I'm not walking away quiet." Everyone froze. I leaned forward, voice low but steady. "If you want this resolved, you pay me what I'm owed. Clean. No gag order, no strings." Blair looked like she'd swallowed a tack. One of the HR people quietly put down his pen. Dan spoke for the first time. "All right, that's enough. Blair, do what needs to be done." He stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked out. No handshake, no eye contact. Marla smiled like a shark in open water. I looked at Scott. "You should have read the paperwork." By the time I got home, the email was already sitting in my inbox. Subject line, "Confirmation of funds transfer." Sender, Cheryl Klein, VP of Finance, Wessler Group. Body was short and stiff. Mr. Callahan. "Per the agreement finalized this morning, the full current value of your vested shares has been wired to the account on file. Total transfer amount, $1,894,276.32. No NDA or further stipulations are required. Regards, Cheryl Klein." That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement, just a number and a wire. I stared at it for a second, then shut the laptop. Didn't call anyone. Didn't text the group chat. Didn't log into LinkedIn to write some fake on to new adventures post. Instead, I grabbed Boomer's leash and said, "Let's go." We walked for over an hour, just quiet steps through the neighborhood, past the same houses I used to speed by when I was running late to catch 8 a.m. calls. Stopped by Sonic on the way back. Got him a double cheeseburger and a water cup. Sat on the curb and let him eat like a king. It felt final, like something big had slammed shut. When I got home, I opened my contacts list, deleted every name tied to that company: Scott, Kenny, IT, help desk. The finance director who once asked me how to open a CSV, gone. Marla texted me around 5. "They're lucky you're not vindictive." I stared at it for a second, then replied, "Who says I'm done?" A week later, I bought a used fishing boat from a guy out in Mesquite. Nothing fancy, just something that floats and doesn't leak. Named it Clause 5C. Started doing part-time consulting for small firms. Folks who actually wanted help, not someone to take the fall when budgets got tight. Now I pick my clients. If they smell like suits, I pass. Some of the old team tried to reach out. "Hey man, didn't know the whole story. Hope you're doing well." I left every message on read. They thought I'd take the 2 weeks, sulk a little, maybe get drunk, then fade out like a good little employee. What I actually did was read the damn paperwork they hoped I'd ignore. I never planned any of this. At first, I just wanted respect. To be treated like I mattered. Treated like my years meant something. Like I hadn't just filled a seat. I'd built the damn floor under it. But once I realized they were willing to cheat me just to save face, game on. Marla said the CEO looked like he'd swallowed a brick when she read that clause out loud in the boardroom. Good. I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. They erased me like it was a line item. Didn't even flinch. But I came back as something they never expected. An owner. Every quarter, I still get shareholder updates in the mail. Big thick envelopes with charts and graphs and nonsense buzzwords about growth and outlook. I don't even open them. I just like knowing I'm still on their list. That's the thing about guys like Scott and Kenny. They're always looking up, chasing promotions, trying to impress someone in the next office over. They never look down, not until it's too late. If you're reading this, hoping for a way out after being tossed aside, start with your contract, the one buried in your drawer under old pay stubs and parking passes. Sometimes the power has been sitting in your filing cabinet all along. And sometimes, all it takes is one clause to flip the table.